first in a daydream, many years ago, I will tell it to you as it was told to me. Yet in the telling it will doubtless change. For I then believed it began at the edge of the sea, where the deep roars in the distance, and where once upon a time a heroine sits alone, staring out across the waves. Now she cannot quite remember how she came to be in this land, nor how long she has been here. Yet there is a feeling, a gnawing sensation that reaches down from the back of her throat to the pit of her belly. The nights are drawing in, and the summer birds have long since taken flight over the horizon. She has watched them go and has longed to follow, yet she knows she must remain, and if she is to survive, she must prepare for the winter. She gathers driftwood and carries it, load after load, up the hill, and chops and stacks until sweat runs from her every pore. She fishes the rock pools for mullet and the nearby streams for the autumn trout that swim in from the sea to spawn. Some days she walks in the forest, collecting mushrooms and berries, herbs to try and hazelnuts to store. And so it is on one such late autumn afternoon. For a long time she wanders, filling her sack as she goes, and for a while her thoughts absorb her. She has worked hard these past few weeks and is weary. But it's the endless broken nights that have really sapped her strength, far more than the labour of her hands. For each night she wakes from a dream, her face drenched with tears and her heart pounding in terror. Often the feelings stay with her, and she cannot shake herself free. At such times she sits beside the ocean, with her arms wrapped tight around her shoulders, as we first saw her. The sun is setting by the time she thinks of home, and a thick salt mist is drifting in from the ocean. The late summer leaves are all but blown from the trees, leaving them stark and bare and unfamiliar. Suddenly unsure, she draws her woolen shawl around her and turns to retrace her steps. Yet the well-trodden path she might have taken is now nowhere to be seen. She looks around, this way and that, trying to sense her surroundings, but she can't. She knows only that she is far from the shoreline, for she can no longer hear the familiar sounds of the sea. Instead, there is only silence and darkness, spreads over the forest like a cloak. She's here, she's here, whisper the tall silver birch, floating their message upon the cool evening breeze. Tell the ancient mother that at last her daughter is here. She knows, the mighty oaks reply. She waits for the moon to illumine the sky. Shh, hush now, hush now, the ancient mother then tells them. Hush now, hush now, still your leaves. And as she speaks, a shimmering moon rises up over the wood and sheds its silver light in shafts and streams through the trees. And the young woman knows instantly that she has been here before, not in her waking life, but in the dark dreams that haunt her. She has stood here in this very place and walked as she does now, down through an avenue of tall silver birch. There had been something more, however, something she cannot quite recall, something rare and fragile, calling and beckoning her on. Then all at once she hears it, faintly at first, filtering through the silence, far in the distance, yet unmistakably the song of a summer bird. She walks on with quickened pace, and the song of the bird grows louder and clearer. Soon she comes to a circle of mighty oaks, wreathed in pale white mist, all knotted and knuckled and wizened with age. These great trees stand, branches entwined, trunks inclined, peering down into the circle, their attention wrapped around its centre. The young woman comes closer, and as she does so, she sees, seated at its heart, the mysterious figure of a woman with the bird, a nightingale, perched upon her knee. Well, she's neither young nor old, this woman of the woods, nor completely of this mortal world. Her forehead is broad and her cheekbones high and finely curved. Her eyes are green, deep set and translucent like the sea. She wears a cloak of soft feathers, and her hair, which glistens in the moonlight, trails in waves of silver and gold far beyond her waist. With a single movement, she raises her hand and beckons. You may approach without fear, she begins, meeting the young woman's gaze as she speaks. But move slowly, she cautions, so as not to frighten the bird. The young woman edges forward, and as the bird completes its calling song, passes into the oak tree circle. Though there are many who have heard the nightingale, the woodland woman then tells her, few have ever seen it. For this shy creature hides its nest as carefully as it conceals itself, close to the ground, hidden in the undergrowth of the forest bed. And saying so, she casts her eye toward the bird, and it sings once more. Now years have gone by since the young woman has heard so sweet a song as the nightingale now sings. Yet though the song is sweet, she soon sees that the creature is gravely ill. Its flight feathers are dull and all but fallen, and its exposed wings are injured. Struggling to understand, she looks into the woodland mother's eyes. Take this bird, she says gently, and restore it to health. You will learn how best to make your approach. You will discover the bird's needs. And when you know these things, we will meet, and your task will be done. And saying so, she places the bird into the young woman's care and slowly disappears into the mist. Remember, remember, remember. Through the days that follow, the nightingale stays close to the young woman, yet it sings no more. Each time she comes near, it reels back, quivering with fright. She brings worms and spiders and offers berries from her sack, but the bird will not eat. Day and night she watches, willing it to survive, but no matter what, the bird will not respond. And as winter approaches, it grows weaker and weaker, and the young woman begins to fear for its life. Such is her concern one dark, moonless night, as a fierce wind sweeps in from the sea. Fallen leaves, once plump and fresh with life, now rustle and shift across the forest floor. Footsteps then sound, striding through the wood toward her. Dry leaves crunch beneath them. Twigs crack and fall to the ground, ominously close by. She looks around, searching the darkness, but she sees nothing. Sensing danger, all the woodland creatures scurry for shelter and brace themselves as best they can. Only the mighty oaks and silver birch hold fast their ground as the winds gather force. And though they know that the storm must surely come, still they weep for the daughter of the Ancient One, who with the nightingale in her care must face it alone. Suddenly, lightning pierces the sky, and in that split second shows a stranger, dark and hooded across the forest floor. And in that same harsh light, he sees her. Seconds pass, her heart pounds, thunderclouds crash and crack. She can hardly breathe. Lightning flashes again. He is upon her. Yet it is the bird, the precious bird he lunges for, and brushing roughly past her, he seizes the tiny fluttering form, and crying triumphantly, vanishes into the night. Now all around the harsh winds howl, and the storm rages on unabated, and the young woman, not knowing what else to do, gives chase. Yet the hooded one is always ahead of her, however fast she runs, and the stolen bird is always, always just beyond her reach. Her feet tear and bleed, and her hands and face are scratched by the sharp thorns and brambles that crowd in about her at every twist and turn of the rapidly narrowing path. Yet unceasingly she pushes her way through, heart thumping, face hot with tears, completely oblivious of the dark magic that grips and overtakes her. And very soon she is completely lost within the thickest and bleakest depths of the wood, inextricably caught and trapped within the briar. She thrashes about, desperately trying to free herself. But the more she struggles, the more she becomes ensnared. The hooded one vanishes into the shadows, yet the hollow, mocking sounds of his triumph ring out, long after he can be seen no more. It is a long time before she finally gives up, refusing to believe that the bird is lost. For you see, the inescapable realization has already come upon her, that this is the place where her dreams have always ended, and this is the haunting and recurring moment from which she has so often wrenched herself from sleep. She reels under the force of so stark a revelation, and she cries out to the Ancient Mother with all the bitterness and resentment of a daughter betrayed. Yet though the Ancient Mother hears her cries, she cannot intervene, nor offer any comfort at this time. And whilst they also ache to console her, the mighty oaks and silver birch can only watch and wait, unapprehended, at her side. Utterly defeated and broken in spirit, she slumps unconscious to the ground. Through the trees the hooded one returns to find her. He shakes but cannot rouse her. And so, taking her for dead, he flings the terrified nightingale into the brambles beside her. It no longer has any value to him. And he stalks off arrogantly into the darkness. Well, throughout the night, the young woman lies limp and motionless, completely unaware of the nightingale beside her. Yet in her dreams, she is returned to the shoreline, where so many times before she has watched the summer birds take flight. They are all long gone. Her heart breaks. Then, very faintly at first, filtering through the silence, hardly louder than a whisper, yet unmistakably, the sweet, sweet song of the nightingale, calling her as it had done before. Instinctively, she knows she's been given another chance. Now we cannot say for certain how she brings herself to wakefulness at this point. Only that it requires all of her courage to finally face the reality of her predicament. The nightingale is almost dead. It is the bleakest moment she has ever known. Her darkest dreams stripped and laid bare. Grief and remorse engulf her. The part she has played in the bird's demise strikes home, and she understands she has known all along how best to approach the bird. But she has behaved as if she were ignorant, as if she did not know at all. Come forward without fear, the ancient mother had counselled, if only she had been able. The bird knew she had not, sensed her fear, recoiled from it. The hooded one had smelt it, tracked its scent through the night. How could it have been any other way? Yet even so, there had been such a surety in what the ancient mother had told her, as if in some mysterious way the task were already completed. A quiet certainty that the bird would be restored in her care. So hoping beyond hope, and praying she is not too late, she resolves to begin anew. Slowly then, and with great patience, she sets about the long task of disentangling herself from the thicket. And as she does so, she keeps the memory of the nightingale's sweet song alive in her heart. And little by little, as she loosens herself from the grip of the thorns, it grows stronger and stronger, welling up from the pit of her belly, soothing her throat with its sweetness, and finally bubbling over into song. And in this way, she draws close to the abandoned bird beside her. only that very often it is the realization of what is needed that takes the time, and not so much the putting it into practice. Well, very soon, the distance between them is no distance at all. And as the long night draws to a close, and the morning sun rises up over the wood, she gently releases herself and the tiny bird from the tight grip of the briar. She cups the precious creature in her hands, tenderly caressing its feathers and soothing its trembling with her own tuneful song. Well, from that moment on, she nurtures the bird like a true mother. She soon finds her way back to the oak tree circle, and there, day by day, the little bird begins to recover. She builds a ground nest and each morning places food and water close by, then slowly withdraws into the distance. And as the days pass, trust deepens between them, and the bird accepts more and more of her offerings, and the young woman learns a great deal. The slower she moves, the closer the bird will allow her to come. If she is very still, it will come close of its own accord. Yet most wondrous of all is that if her heart is also at peace, as it often is, as the harsh winter months draw to a close, then this most elusive creature will even perch upon her knee and sing. By springtime, the nightingale's wings are mended, and its plump feathers restored. Soon after it begins to fly. Short stretches at first, tentative and unsure. Though as spring turns onward towards summer, these first flutterings progress to proper flight. Each day, higher and higher, yet always returning to the young woman at the end of the day. Throughout all, however, she understands that the nightingale does not belong to her, and knows that when the summer ends, they must part. The bird also senses this time approaching, and in the evenings, when the sun hangs low over the forest, it perches upon her knee, and together they sing the song of calling that they love so well. So it is on the very last night. The young woman cannot sleep, for the joy of the nightingale's recovery is tinged with the sadness of imminent parting. She rests her back against one of the oaks, with the bird nestled in her lap, stroking and caressing its feathers, savouring every last moment, prolonging the dawn in her heart. And the trees look down upon her with great love and compassion, and they lull and soothe her to sleep with the soft, soft swaying of their autumn leaves. When she awakes next morning, the ancient mother's cloak of glistening feathers lies beside her. She wraps it around her shoulders, not realizing what it means. And she sets forth from the oak tree circle, along the avenue of tall silver birch, back to the shoreline where it had all begun. The ocean's edge, she calls the nightingale to her for the last time, and cupping it tenderly in her hands, she whispers words of fond farewell. Then, raising the beloved creature above her, she shuts her eyes, takes a deep breath, and finally frees it to the skies above. The nightingale takes flight effortlessly, rising high from the shoreline and soaring out over the ocean, whilst the young woman, with her newly feathered arms outstretched, tentatively opens her eyes. And that is when she knows that her task is complete. For instead of watching from below, she realizes she's also rising. And instead of seeing through earthbound eyes, she's seeing through the eyes of the bird and flying far from the forest and onward to the horizon, where nightingales go when the summer has ended, and where the spirit is sure to follow when the healing is done.